Chapter 51. The Core Entertainment Complex was packed with employees. They wondered why they had to schlep across the street from HQ, instead of just meeting in the auditorium or cafeteria. A number of the level 1s and 2s were antsy in their seats, but the rest of the room sat ramrod straight, locks pulsing in unison. More and more, the bots had begun subconsciously adopting similar behaviors, resulting in a lexicon of habits, movements, and speech that seemed eerie to most Reggies and Dirts. Core sometimes wondered what her children would look and act like in the coming generations, but she wasn't too worried. Course corrections were always an option. Without much fanfare, Coraline strode up the stairs and took the stage, sans herald. He hated conflict, especially in groups, and had opted to watch Coraline from home. As Coraline squared her shoulders to speak, a murmur of micro-drones centered their cameras on her. Meanwhile, in homes and offices around the globe, her 3D image appeared in the HUDs of all her augmented citizens. Hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. I know you have questions, but the reason we're here is that so do I. Behind her, pictures and videos of the stainless steel lab table and the stashes of herbs and drugs they had found popped onto the building-sized screen. I would like the hands of anyone that has seen anything like these items. Right away, the team that had brought her the news shot up their arms, a mere formality. But then, slowly, a dozen more reached into the air. She had already analyzed the possible results of her question. As predicted, the raised hands mostly belonged to younger, lower-level employees, some with juvenile and prison records. But Coraline had permanently rehabilitated them, washing away any inappropriate criminal or violent tendencies when they had volunteered to undergo the test and the procedure. That's what it did, right? Polish rough, messy Reggies into accountable, dependable, shiny new bots? But then why? That's it? No one else, eh? This is the time, my friends. I promise there won't be any repercussions. But that offer expires as soon as I walk out of here, and this broadcast terminates. After that, I'm off to chat with Core, so... Over 24 more hands floated up, their hesitation replaced by abject fear of what she might do if they didn't come clean. Coraline saw similar numbers from other states and countries in her scrolling HUD data. It was mostly a bluff, of course. Coraline would have to search for answers, which required crafting exacting, complex data queries. Unfortunately, Core still had to be taught intuition and nuances at times, trained like a bloodhound on a sweaty shirt. Looking at all the real and virtual hands, Coraline was aghast. Mixed with her frustration at still not having the whole picture was anger in knowing that her people had kept something this critical from her. But then she felt an internal shift as she stared at all the nervous faces, the faces of friends she had known for years, loyal workers. Hell, she knew half their kids personally. As her locks diffused some of her misplaced angst, she realized that perhaps she had failed them. And then, Coraline had threatened to kick them out of her little club. Yet they were the ones that felt guilty. As Coraline stood there, Sis fed her data from Core's servers. Not one shred of intelligible evidence popped up from their feeds, with all the people who had outed themselves. This meant she might never find out about the bots leading second lives offline in the shadows. Somehow, most of the thoughts, sights, and sounds that should have streamed from their eyes and ears to Sis and then to Core had never left their heads. Whether hours or days, any bot experiences that included Sasha's herbs and her army of neo-shamanic riffraff were absent or corrupted. Of course, according to everything she knew about Syslok and Core, which was everything, that was impossible. I designed and built it all, damn it. Alright then, well, I wish I could tell you everything was going to be okay, but I can't. These herbs, drugs, and adulterants, Belong to a group of people that claim we, bots as they call us, have been clashing with them, she said, her hands behind her back as she began pacing. If Harold had come with her, he definitely would have regretted it right about now. The focused, short path reflected that old habit from her dangerous past. It had been an expression of existential dread and futility, topped with a dollop of calculating wrath. As Coraline continued, her locks tapped out a smoldering warning pattern. But to who or what, no one was sure. A little side note. It seems that some of you have been getting a tad tipsy with our distant cousins, she stated, turning slowly and walking across to her other pivot point. The audience looked at her and each other for the meaning of that word, cousins, but they all came up empty. It was a little inside joke between her, Sasha, and Deep Time. The fact that I knew nothing about this new trend in drug use is troubling. Yet, ultimately, not a big fucking deal. However, the fact that my employees, some of you close personal friends, have weakened our precarious standing in Reggie society, and with violence no less, is, they harass us. The room turned in unison, locks blinking and pulsing with a rainbow spectrum of colors and intensities. Coraline looked at the man. Well, a boy, really, and an employee of 2 years. Sis pulled up his stats. Above average IQ, programming background, trained in stick fighting, hand-to-hand, so why him? Sis, blunt my anger. Well, mostly. Go on, she said as calmly as possible. They started showing up at our venues, our hangout spots, businesses, restaurants, bars, stores, concerts. They say they see things we can't see, us, and that we're perverting our biology, he continued, getting supportive nods and uh-huhs from the crowd. And they're fast, too. Faster than any Reggie and precise. Like us, but different, I don't know, the man finished, feeling confused at his inability to vocalize the odd encounters. They call each other dirts, a rail-thin girl with short-cropped copper hair expounded from her seat, too shy to stand. But I only got that from eavesdropping. The dirts, they're kinda paranoid. Okay, maybe secretive is more accurate. Anyway, the dirts, they call it the 10, all that stuff, she finished, pointing to the giant projection on the wall. The 10. So Sasha had needed the black seed. And I was right about the rungs of her ladder. But when did she start handing out her top secret special sauce? And how did she keep such a vast following hidden from Cora and me? Coraline thought as she flexed her lock discipline, dialing down their heat and light. With so many people using that 10, she must have removed the toxins, the side effects. The ride must be as smooth as glass by now, Coraline thought, furious she had gotten the rough-cut, raw beta version, and mad that now, as an uplifted cyborg, she would never be able to metabolize the 10 while computing. But Coraline had met the Peacock Princess on the train, as she called her. That woman was practically another species, and just as divergent from her Reggie as Coraline's uplifted humans. No, there was nothing on Earth that you could snort, shoot, or swallow and still maintain that much self-control and composure. It must have been paired with meditation, hypnosis, or other mental training. Perhaps a school or facility of some sort. That would mean Sasha had given everyone in the expedition the second half of her secret formula, in all her ramblings back in the jungle. And now she was teaching it to others? But all for what purpose, Sasha? Coraline wondered, her mind wearing. How many of you have tried it? The 10, or other stuff? Coraline asked, a hand pointing to the projection and forcing a motherly smile. That number was about 15 shy hands. But unlike the bots involved with hostilities, this demographic was all over the map. Interesting. Would these mods have been better off as dirts? I threw up a lot, a man around Coraline's age shouted, with a ripple of laughter breaking out. The room loosened up, and a few more confessed their experiences. She knew there had to be more. Drugs usually went hand in hand with shame and wild stories. And, she said, prompting Mr. Puker to share further. And, yeah, it did make me feel more for a while. Every color was so deep, so rich, and Coraline watched the entire trip play out on his face as he recounted it, winding down with a look of sullen bewilderment. Been there, done that, buddy. Then a young, exuberant girl popped up, bolstered by the apparent freewheeling group therapy session. My heads up got like all crazy, she announced in a high-pitched chirp of a voice. Ugh, make it stop, Coraline thought guiltily. The data nodes in my feed were hella fuzzy, you know? Totally inaccurate. And my AUG field was all rippling, wavy and stuff. Plus, the words made no sense. Complete gobbledygook. It all made me seasick, for sure. Honestly, Coraline silenced her with a raised palm, and the girl sat down, glad to dissolve back into the crowd and out of her boss's critical gaze. Sis, no more cheerleaders, she thought with an inner smirk. Coraline did like the phrase AUG field, though. Much hipper than HUD. And if she were being honest, bot wasn't half bad either. Unconsciously, Sis passed the memo to Core, who used her trademarked soft power finesse to gently diffuse it like essential oils into their communal, cultural lexicon. Well, that was it then. Mystery solved. The drugs interfered with the Sis transmissions to Core, either blocking it entirely or corrupting whatever data made it through Sasha's gauntlet. And with their Sis impaired or disabled, who knows what got recorded, dismissed, or edited before being sent upstairs. Once the data landed on Cora's desk, she immediately filed it away. Any qubits which appeared delusional, false, or paradoxical got dumped into her junk drawer. However, the most troubling part was that Coraline had never engineered said junk drawer into Core's software. So, oh dear. Coraline wanted to leave right then, head over to a private workstation and tease out the causes and chronology of this monumental failure. But she had to maintain, to hold steady for her people. Bots were okay with silence, even what Reggies would consider awkward or painfully so. But as Coraline stood there, locks processing and pulsing, her unknowns had them all squirming in their seats. Going forward, she finally said in a languid, official tone, there will be no more physical altercations with these dirts. There. Coraline had officially stamped dirt into the wax seal of bot history. It was inflammatory, but she was just tossing the hot potato back to Sasha. The crowd snickered but silenced quickly, and she continued. And for the love of Core, don't waste your time or my nanites on their dangerous, filthy drugs. Murmurs of agreement and that's reasonable sentiments floated around the room. Coraline could handle being a hypocrite as long as it served to keep her bots from making the same mistakes she had. Because if they ever found out how she had raised her radiant silicon empire out of the muck and magic of those same filthy drugs, like a lotus. Need to know, Coraline, need to know, and they don't. Now, I will assume that this issue is closed. I have one more small announcement before we adjourn, Coraline said with another inner smirk. All eyes focused on her, and all their locks once again pulsed in perfect sync. Receptive, absorbing, the bot way. The universe, cosmology, all of that has always inspired me and influenced our research. Space travel, right? We all grew up on a wealth of science fiction surrounding it, but now, our science facts have caught up. To be honest, I never thought I would live to see this day. As a human, at least. But we are not just some motley collection of random Reggies, with primitive hardware slapped on, barely impressive. No. We are the pinnacle of human evolution. And that means it is our duty, our right, to poke around out there and make it safer for everyone. Yes, for the Reggies. And yes, even for the Dirts, Coraline said, enjoying the groans that followed. But make no mistake, space is our territory. So, on that note, Coraline continued, as Sis spoon-fed comparable yet customized data and images into their personal and communal aug fields. Blueprints, research papers, and simulations scrolled before their racing eyes. I would like to take a moment and thank the Level 9 group that has worked tirelessly on our FTL travel division since its inception a year ago, and the deliverable prototypes you have gleaned from our Chaos Drive modeling. Well, I was blown away. A happy coincidence of timing indeed, and excellent work, people. A collective round of heightened lock flashing swept like a wave back and forth through the crowd, then died down. Bots weren't big on clapping. Worthy projects, all of them, but always subordinate to building our culture, financial interests, businesses, or empire, to hear the Reggies and Dirts tell it. Ah well, so be it then, Coraline thought, resigned to whatever that might entail. However, I have been in lengthy processing sessions with Core recently. Beyond our theories of drives and gravity dampeners, a singular hounding realization kept emerging repeatedly, and it is the only conclusion that makes sense, that matches our data, and in light of this dirt business, our present trajectory, Coraline said, practically feeling their locks heat in anticipation. Core and I believe that this moment, right here, right now, is the singularity. As she said it, Coraline's Sis picked up her number 2 pencil, sharpened it with a few turns of the crank, and blew off the tip. Then she scribbled the exact time and stellar coordinates on a fluorescent green post-it note and slapped it onto their brains. And that means we must split from the old human family tree and graft ourselves somewhere more suitable to our kind. Honestly, I try to ignore this truth, shelve it for, well, a younger future generation, I suppose. Why not just chip away at our pale blue dot, refining, solving, improving? But Earth is finite and space infinite. As unique as it is, this world simply can't contain our aspirations, our vast potential any longer. I prefer to think of the Earth as our nest, and like it or not, we are outpacing everyone and everything we love here. I know you felt it too. Currently, we are stuck between these enhanced yet unpredictable dirts and the very predictable, yet conflict-loving, warring Reggies. Not to sound too hippie-ish, but those are traits that perhaps only time, technology, and the universe can resolve. And, as much as the Reggie conspiracy theorists would love to believe it, we bots cannot ethically force the evolution of our fellow sentient beings. All of us chose this life, and went through the grueling screening process, the test, and then the procedure, right? Likewise, despite what the dirts think of us, we are whole beings and have souls, and I will not let them be tarnished by the caustic ideologies and self-destructive habits of the Reggies or the dirts. So, yes, this is our home for now, but let's be honest, my friends. We've been going through the motions for years now, haven't we? Coraline said, relieved that it garnered concurrent mumblings and flashes from the audience. And I'm not sure if it was just garden variety complacency or idiotic nostalgia that kept me from focusing elsewhere. not being emotionally prepared to let go of all the Reggies that were so strong in my memory and heart, Coraline said, suddenly in danger of falling into a torrent of negative memories. Ghosts, Coraline. Move on. You're making it weird. Sappy as for sloppy Sasha. The alliteration made her smile, enough to snap her back to the task at hand. All of this is to say, I intend to push hard for deep space, all puns intended. To colonize habitable exoplanets. Feel the warmth of new stars and watch their incredible alien sunsets. To hose the galaxy with our red-hot von Neumann probes. I don't know. The universe is really frickin' huge, people. Most of the crowd laughed and cheered, with a smaller, mostly older contingent either silent or outright engrossed in their feeds. Still human enough, she thought with her usual mixture of mild disappointment and rock-hard awe. Wrap it up. You of all bots know how fast they get bored. Pun totally intended. So, our company will be shifting its focus towards off-planet ventures over the coming years, a larger presence in our orbital labs and housing, and an interstellar transport division, shuttling larger caches of raw materials, core nodes, and data stores past the boundaries of the UN treaty. And, of course, spaceships. She used her hands for this one, fish story style, as she flung her arms wide. Huge, badass spaceships. The crowd laughed because it was funny, and because only bots could actually do it. That realization was a strange mix of imagination and certainty, and it made Coraline's locks glow with a cheery, sunflower yellow as she wrapped up. So, as usual, assignments will be distributed by core, parsed by your sis, and adjusted as needed. Interpersonally, just bring any issues to a level 6 or above. You know the drill. And, of course, my proverbial office door is always open, Coraline said, clasping her hands together. She felt it was clear that she had finished, but no one moved. They suddenly wanted more, unless her sis was telling little white lies again. They want a show, Coraline, so let's give 'em one. Sis, overclock. Sis obeyed without question this time, transforming Coraline's locks into a smoldering crown of Tony the Tiger Victory Orange, the tips sparkler white. This is the cusp, people. If we succeed or fail at our mission, we have only ourselves to blame, not the overly cautious, ignorant Reggies, or those misguided, hedonistic dirts. This moment, this day, is truly the dawning of a new age, the likes of which the world, perhaps the universe, has never seen. The audience stood and flashed their locks as they cheered and hooted. Coraline just stood there, steepling her fingers as she marveled at her uplifted, extended family. We will become the new tribes, Coraline thought, as Sis tried to assess the word tribes from deep in Coraline's subconscious, propagating 1,000 different permutations. No, Sis, not those dusty old things. Not some unbroken genetic line of succession, stretching back to that last common ancestor, amoeba-looking motherfucker. No, from here on out, bots are the last common ancestor. Reggies and dirts are done, and Core has shown me we will reign for at least 1,000,000 years. It is now the Maw of the Tribes.